Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to the last syllable of recorded time. And all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Life is but a walking shadow, out-brief candle. A poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then he's heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. The American presidential elections are usually a complicated, long, and difficult affair, but it has never been more important than it is now, in the year of our Lord, 2024. Never before was this freedom-loving country on a crossroads, with one road leading to a bright and sunny future, and other one into the sulfuric doom of destruction. Obviously, many Americans are feeling anxious. They don't want to end up in a sulfuric doom of destruction. Whose name should be selected as the American citizens cast their ballot in November? A black woman's or a white felon's? Our team of senior political analysts and investigative journalists processed a strenuous amount of data comparing both candidates on many important issues with dedication, determination, and conscious objectivity. Donald or Danny is crass with a streak of megalomania, speaks rudely, grins menacingly, grabs people of the other kind by their hard-to-grab parts, so far has had 3 wives and many paid-for girlfriends, had a cameo in Home Alone 2, went through bankruptcies and divorces, and he is a convicted felon. On the bright side, he wants to remove tax on tips, but ironically, everyone in the service industry knows that Danny himself doesn't tip. It is already 8-0 for Kamala, and we did not mention the most serious point. Danny is a threat to democracy, and that cannot be brushed under the table or light on fire and thrown out of a moving train. He was a president once already. That time he did not do bad things to democracy because he forgot, but now the situation is much different. Vetted sources say that this time he is really going to go after democracy. Danny will unleash his terrible deeds thus. He would go after his political opponents through the judicial system and propagandist media. He will get friendly judges to sentence these political opponents on unclear charges and even bring them to civil courts and go after their money and bankrupt them for the same business practices everyone else in the business does. He will keep political opponents in fake investigations about colluding with foreign powers, so they will have their reputations damaged. He will use media, federal agencies, and judicial system to make it close to impossible for opponents, even third-party candidates, to run for office in the future elections. If suddenly an infectious disease would spring in the world, Donald will force the population to take unproven medicine with unknown side effects, even though informed consent when taking medicine is essential in a free society. He would change Supreme Court if he doesn't like their ruling. Most importantly, no one voted for him. He was selected to be nominee by the power elites of his party. When we say no one voted for him, we mean no one important. He had support from a group so ridiculous, dirty, and uneducated that cultured people call them deplorables. Deplorables live in unimportant middle states, guzzle beer and oil in their big pickup trucks, and run around with guns and only make some stuff like food and things. Deplorables have no idea what's the difference between hollandaise and bechamel sauce. They don't understand that cultured, urban people want the best for them, and so they should listen and do what they are told. If cultured, urban people tell them that Dani is a threat to democracy, that is the way it is. Getting rid of electoral college would silence them, but so far it did not happen because some folks are following some obscure legal documents. The cultured urban people, educated in the best colleges, imputed important attribute for the best presidential candidate into a machine, and the machine spat out Kamala's name. Kamala is a charismatic leader who knows Donald's type. She is a big fan of George Orwell and is able to doublespeak off the cuff. Economy is great, but she knows how to fix it. Border is secure, but she knows how to fix it. Fracking is bad means fracking is good, because her values have not changed. Her economic recovery plan to combat Biden's inflation is astounding. She will punish grocery stores for charging more than what the clear-eyed government officials deem is the fair price, because if America is going to copy one country, it should be the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union is a true superpower with strong military, amazing scientific achievements, and it is full of smiling people. Its economy is robust. Every 5-year plan improves the Soviet GDP 140%, which is impossible for any other country. Its economic achievements also produce a lot of humor, therefore all those smiling people on the posters. Perhaps they are laughing at this joke. An American, a Polish, and a Soviet dog meet and strike a conversation. The American dog is very fat. This was a dog in the previous American administration, and the two scrawny dogs ask him, "How come he is so fat?" "You see, huff, huff," the American dog says. "I have this great system in place. Whenever I bark, I'll get a meal." "What is meal?" the Polish dog asks. "Yeah," says the Soviet dog. "And what is bark?" Kamala was a prosecutor and attorney general of glorious California. Her record speaks for itself. She was tough on crime, often keeping prisoners longer than necessary in prison and keeping them off the streets. Then she was for cash bail reform, letting criminals go free because they are people too. She was against the death penalty. Then she was for the death penalty. As the vice president, she was in charge of the border. Then she was not in charge of the border. Another time, it was clear to Kamala that it makes sense to have less police on the streets when the riots burned cities, when stores were looted and citizens robbed and killed, and she stood firmly for lowering the police budgets. She knew that citizens would rather have their cities destroyed than have even one racist policeman in a police department. The point of cutting the police budget could be a problem because a Soviet-style country needs to expend their police budget for extensive surveillance, manpower to drag people out of their apartments at night, pay for informers, and for labor camp guards. But luckily, in Kamala, America has a politician who can be unburdened by what has been. Ability to change mind is important for a true leader. What if something better comes along? Should a leader not change her mind just because of principles? As a vice president, Kamala was part of a glorious victory in Afghanistan, where the US has shown to the Soviets how it's done. When the US military pulled out with glory and fanfare, they left behind thousands of interpreters and other Afghan personnel who were helping the American military all those hard years. As a reward, Americans let them finish the Taliban off and keep all the spoils. America always rewards people who help her. Millions of people cross illegally the border into the United States, and for that they are rewarded with money, jobs, and shelters. It's not as clear what they did for America, but it must be much more important than just being a tour guide in a war zone. But we still did not mention the most important attributes of Kamala. She has a uterus, breasts, rounder hips, and has a thing missing in her nether region. On top of that, she has more melanin in her skin than Dani. These last attributes are extremely important for the office, and because of this candidate receives at least 6 points, so the final count is 15-0 for Kamala. So, folks, who would you rather vote for? A candidate selected by these assholes, or a candidate picked by a smooth, gleaming machine?
You heard of honest Socrates, the man who never lied. They weren't so grateful as you'd think. Instead, the rulers fixed to have him tried and handed him the poison drink. How honest was the people's noble son. The world, however, didn't wait, but soon observed what followed on. It's honesty that brought him to that state. How fortunate the man